So welcome to Michigan Learning Channel's professional learning session on our lesson type of word builders. I'm Annie Spear, and I'm going to be the host for our work today. I am an early literacy professional learning grant coordinator for the Michigan Association of Intermediate School Administrators, which is also known as MESA. It's a very long title. I'm also a first grade teacher for the Michigan Learning Channel on Read, Write, Roar. And I'm also an adjunct faculty member of Central Michigan University and really appreciate the privilege to be able to work with teacher candidates as they're learning about early literacy in their studies. Joining me today is Jill Erforth, who's a kindergarten teacher for the Michigan Learning Channel and a District K-6 literacy consultant in Utica Community Schools. So Jill, do you want to unmute and say hello to everybody?
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're glad you could join us, and I will tell you a little bit more about myself later on in the presentation. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Jill. And also really excited to have an amazing first grade teaching partner, Sharnita Rogers, who is a Michigan Learning Channel engagement specialist for the channel, but also a Read, Write, Roar first grade teacher. Sharnita, do you want to unmute and say hello?
Greetings. So happy to be here with you.
Thanks for being here, Sharnita. And last but definitely not least, Dr. Rhonda Provost, who's the project coordinator for the partnership work between MAISA and the Michigan Learning Channel, is here. So Rhonda, if you want to say hello to everybody, that would be great.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending today's session. It's going to be very engaging, and I hope you're able to take away with you some really good teaching strategies with letter heroes and our, what is our other topic, Annie?
Thank you.
And
our high frequency words, you've got it there, Rhonda. Oh, thanks, Rhonda. And Rhonda really helps keep all of this work moving behind the scenes and getting us help with sketches and things like that beyond the other expertise that she offers in systems work for us. So many of you are already putting your name, your district role, your district and role in the chat. We invite you to keep doing that so you can see your colleagues and friends that are here. And if you feel like you would like to be tweeting about our presentation today, we have some hashtags and some Twitter feeds that you can use. And so those I'm putting in the chat for you right now. So if there's something that you like and you want to put it out there, no pressure, but there we go, our social media pieces. And now I'm going to turn things over to Sharnita Rogers, who's our Southeast Michigan engagement specialist for the Michigan Learning Channel.
Thank you, Annie. Hello again. I'm Sharnita Rogers. Before we get too far today, I'd like to thank the sponsor of our session, the phonemic Foundation. At the end of this session, we'll have a short video from the phonemic Foundation to learn more about their grant opportunities. The Michigan Learning Channel is a statewide public television partnership offering instructional content to support the education of students and to provide resources for families and teachers. The instructional content is aligned with Michigan's educational standards and follows a widely accepted sequence for mastering skills throughout the school year. The Michigan Learning Channel provides free access to every Michigander in every corner of the state, since it's a 24/7 over-the-air broadcast channel. It's available through your local PBS station throughout Michigan. This map shows the regions in Michigan and the stations affiliated with them. In addition to broadcasts, there are many other ways to get access.
Grab me a gummy bear.
Channel content. Oh, I would like a gummy bear. Like one of those too. Okay. In addition to all of that, we offer the Michigan Learning Channel content and Read, Write, Roar episodes. The Michigan Learning Channel is available on Spectrum Cable in Northern Michigan, so check your local channel listings to find the correct channel. Also, a select number of Read, Write, Roar episodes are available on Comcast On Demand. Of course, you can always stream the Michigan Learning Channel and Michigan Learning Channel programs on michiganlearning.org. But the Michigan Learning Channel is also available on smartphones via the Detroit Public Television app. and many Michigan Learning Channel programs are available on pbs.org and through the PBS smartphone and smartphone TV apps, including Roku and Apple TV. So there's a variety of ways to access that content. The Michigan Learning Channel is a statewide, the Michigan Learning Channel is statewide, and as a part of every PBS station throughout the state has an engagement coordinator. Please reach out to your local engagement coordinator and we'll be glad to talk to you about how resources can help you and your students. You can find coordinators at michiganlearning.org/coordinators. And if you don't know which coordinator covers your area, you can always email any of us and we'll be glad to put you in touch with the coordinator closest to you. The last thing I want to mention is the Let's Read Together Challenge. It's returning this fall. Last year, we challenged students across the state to see who could complete 1,000 minutes of reading during October and November. In January 2022, 6 teachers and 6 households were randomly drawn as winners for books, tablets, and other learning materials. This year, we are expanding the challenge to students of all ages. So please subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on social media for more information as the contest nears. Thank you for joining us today for our special professional learning. I'm going to return things to Annie.
Thank you, Sharnita, for that great overview for us of all the things that we can find on the Michigan Learning Channel and where to find them. So before we get started, there are a few things that I want to share with you. Again, today you're here for a session of word builders, high frequency words, and letter heroes, but there are some supportive documents for you. The first one is a link to the Essential Instructional Practices in Early Literacy that we want you to have for your reference because we'll be referring to this throughout our session and linking to it. We want you to know that the essentials are for teachers. So they are the how we teach things. These are all grounded in research and in the support of ways that these have been put into place in classrooms to help children be able to learn literacy skills. And the other piece we want you to have today are the Michigan English Language Arts Standards, known as the MyELA standards. The standards are the what? They're what we have to make sure that we teach children every year in their grade level so that all children have access to the same standards and the same things, no matter what grade, what school they're in across the state. So all materials will be available to you at the end of this session, and then some things will also be added into the chat as we talk. You're going to see that there's a learner guide that's been posted into the chat several times today, and that has all these links that we'll be talking about today. We are going to ask you to sign in today, and that's going to be coming into the chat for you. There's a sign-in form, and then if you're not sure which ISD you are a part of, there's a map where you can look for that. And we want you to know that you can receive sketches for your work with us today. We'll make sure you have that form at the end of our session. And now we're going to be thinking about letter heroes and high frequency words from our Read, Write, Roar show. So let's think about what word builders lessons are. So they're lessons that link, excuse me, that link to teaching children about phonological awareness and letter sounds. So as part of this work, when we do these lessons, children will work on phonological skills such as segmenting and blending, and also substituting sounds, adding sounds, and deleting sounds. In addition to phonological awareness, word builders are also lessons in which children will learn letter-sound relationships and attach letters or graphemes to sounds or phonemes, and to build phonics knowledge and learn patterns to support both their decoding or their reading and encoding or writing. So as you know, we're doing letter heroes and high frequency words, but there are other word builder lesson types, which are mystery word and word letter lessons that we covered in our last professional learning session. And you're welcome to check out our YouTube video to see what those are all about. So as we think about letter heroes, we want you to know that they are connected to Essential Instructional Practice 4. We gave you this link at the beginning, and we wanted you to know that This type of instruction is all about phonological awareness in instruction and playing with sounds and words. So teachers promote in these lessons phonological awareness development, particularly phonemic awareness development, through explicit demonstration and explanation for a particular letter, and also have an opportunity, the kids do in these lessons, depending on the episode, to apply their new knowledge and listen for the focus letter in a rhyme or a poem. In our high frequency words lessons, we specifically focus on bullet 3 of Essential 4, with activities that involve segmenting sounds and words, and also in bullet 4 of Essential 4 of activities that involve blending sounds and words. The examples from today are from the K1 level, but you can also find high frequency word instruction through 3rd grade within our lessons on Read, Write, Roar. We want to give you a support for your own planning for phonological awareness. This document is connected to Essential Instructional Practice 4 and based on research by Yop and Yop from 2000. It's also based on a presentation by Dr. Laura Tortorelli that she gave within our coaches community. And we wanted to package it in one way so you'd have all the information on one page. We really want to let you know there's a note that explains the purpose of the document and the connections to research and the intended use of how you would use this document. So we invite you to please make sure you read the overview page when you receive it and hope that it helps you as you're planning. So besides Essential Instructional Practice number 4, there's also Essential Instructional Practice number 5, which is explicit instruction in letter-sound relationships. So explicit instruction in letter-sound relationships, specifically bullet 1, which is instruction in letter-sound relationships that's verbally precise and involving multiple channels such as oral and visual or visual and tactile. You'll notice this as you see the lessons that we're doing today. We also connected bullet 3 about letter-sound instruction being taught systematically in relation to students' needs and aligned with the expectations of the Michigan K-3 standards for English language arts, which you also had and is in the learner guide for you. We also have a connection to bullet 5 that letter-sound relationships are reinforced through coaching children during reading, most notably by cueing children to monitor for meaning and by cueing children to attend to the letters and words and recognize letter-sound relationships that they've been taught. So we know that we don't have access to children right in the room with us, but we do feel like we try and coach them from afar when we're doing this work over broadcasts. We want to think about this application of letter heroes also being related to Essential Instructional Practice 1, which calls upon us to give children opportunities to apply their learning to authentic real-world situations and experiences. So in letter heroes, you'll see this application is done in high-frequency word lessons that can vary between real-world application in the lesson or an invitation for children to be on the lookout for these words when they're reading and writing or when they are out and about. But we do try and connect that whatever they're learning, it does actually matter in relevant real-world ways. So now we're going to think about connections to Essential 6, and I'm going to pass things over to Jill.
So with Essential 6, you'll notice that in some of the word builder lessons that Annie has mentioned, the letter heroes in the high frequency word lessons that you'll see today, that the students are specifically asked to write. And this is connected to Essential Instructional Practice 6, research in standards aligned writing instruction. With our lessons we're discussing today, we'll mostly be focused on bullet 5 of this essential, specifically explicit instruction in letter formation. That you'll notice in letter heroes. And we also focus on spelling strategies and high frequency word lessons that you'll see. So those are some of the key instructional practices that you'll see. Another essential that we want to tie in is Essential 9, using assessment data. So thinking about your assessment data to determine where you might begin with using some of the protocols and instructional practices that you'll see today. For these particular lessons, looking at any assessment data that shows your students' letter sound identification and letter formation, as well as high frequency word automaticity. This might be through a variety of assessments that you give, including formative assessments, anecdotal notes, and even maybe classroom observations to determine where to begin your instruction.
Thanks, Jill, for doing those connections to Essential 6. And now we want to give you one more piece of information and outline for your reference to have later, okay? This is going to show, this one document shows skills that are taught in the lessons, letter heroes and high frequency words, as well as connections to the Essential Instructional Practices and the Michigan ELA standards. So in the Essentials connections, for example, you'll note there's an acronym EIP, which stands for Essential Instructional Practice. So following that is going to be a number and excuse me, following that number after the period is what bullet it's connected to. So for example, skills of segmenting and blending are connected to Essential Instructional Practice 4, bullet 3, activities that involve segmenting sounds and words, and bullet 4, activities that involve blending sounds and words. The MyELA standards are going to work similarly in this document. For example, RF.K.1.D. In that one, the RF stands for Reading Foundational Skills. The K stands for kindergarten. The 1 is for the first strand, and the D is for the first bullet of strand 1. So as you know, we're focused on the 3 essentials in our series that we're doing with you today, but there are specific goals named in the pre-kindergarten essential instructional practices for Essential 5. We'd like to share a book with you that outlines the rationale for the pre-kindergarten essentials goal of 18 uppercase, a mix of 18 uppercase letters, and 15 lowercase letters that we want children to know by the end of the year. This book is a wonderful resource. I've used it to support schools and professional learning around alphabet knowledge. And we're also going to talk about a protocol in just a minute, but this book, it's in the Not This But That series that's edited by Dr. Nell Duke and Ellen Oliver Keene and Colleen Cruz. And the link to that is going to be in your learner guide. So it's called No More Teaching a Letter a Week. So we're going to have a little break in a way for us right now, but get you active and moving. So Sharnita and I are going to walk you through an activity. That's something that's one of my favorite things to do in professional learning, because sometimes we can say things in professional learning and maybe it makes sense to people and maybe it doesn't, but really it helps when we can show people what we mean. So we're going to ask you to think about the letter B. We're going to ask you to think about what sound it makes. What we might say, and you'll hear us say in our lessons, is what does that letter represent for sound? And then how you form the letter. And you're going to have you practice doing that on your own. So you're going to say the letter name aloud, and you're going to show how to form it as you say your letter formation pathway. So Sharnita and I are going to model this for you. Sharnita is going to go first, and we're going to ask you to just observe what you notice. And then we'll be having you share some thoughts in the chat. So Sharnita, can you kick us off with the letter B?
Sure. Let's see. If I were to present the letter B to my class, I would probably say something like this. This is the letter B. I will write the letter B by starting at the top, go down and around. And the letter sound, I would say, is B. B. What would you do, Annie?
Thanks, Sharnita. Well, I would also say this is the letter B, and B represents the sound B. When I would say it, I might say something like this. When I make the letter B, I say slide, climb up, and around. So we're going to ask some of you to put your things in the chat about what did you notice about what we did for saying the letter name and sound. What we did, when we formed our letter B's, I don't know, Shannon, you want to do it together one time? Make a B with me, ready? So we'll make our B. See if you notice anything about our letter B's. And put some thoughts in the chat for us. Go ahead, Shanita. I'll have you keep going with this.
Okay, so that was exciting, right? Yay! So I want you all to share your thoughts and your reflections in the chat. And I want you to think about the activity. I want you to tell us, how does this activity and conversation confirm, change, or even challenge your practice? So think about do you use certain pathways on how to form those letters?
Wide open. Any thoughts you had about thank you, Rhonda, for putting in the chat. So how does what we did confirm, change, or inform your practice? Sharnita, I was noticing when you will you make a letter B for me again? Okay, and so I make a letter B this way. It looks like we both did that the same way. I've seen some other people do a B like this. And I don't know if you've ever seen that. So some people are saying it's confirmed that you need explicit sound explanation. It's backwards for the kids if I'm facing them. So hopefully ours was, we were trying to do it backwards to us, but that it's faced the right way for you, we hope. But thinking out that Emma talked about pulling out that formation, the pathway that you said, but Sharnita and I did not say the same verbal pathways, right? So we want you to think about implications for that in your practice. If I form the letter a little bit, I might form it the same way as Sharnita, but what if I say different words to form it? Or if Sharnita says it, forms it a different way and does it this way, and has different ways of explaining that verbal pathway, how that could be problematic for the kids in our classes. Was there anything else you were going to say about that, Sharnita?
I was just thinking sometimes when we are forming letters, we don't necessarily think about the process. We want to make sure that our students are correctly forming the letter. So now it causes us to think about, what are our students feeling? What are students perceiving about this symbol that they're learning is the letter B? So that can be very insightful as we continue with some of our practices.
Thanks, Sharnita. And then thinking about when we do write it, we say, like, stay away from worksheets, but also know what was that statistic, Sharnita, about how many repetitions we need for handwriting practice? Yep, we really only need that 5 to 8 repetitions. Right after then, it's kind of diminishing return for kids. So we'll have you be thinking, and some of you are saying different things in the chat about, sometimes it says people say letter B says B versus letter B represents B. So that's something, just what we invite you to think about this with your colleagues at school, and think about if you're all doing a different letter formation pathway and using different formations and different verbal pathways, what that might do for the kids in your class, especially those that travel from room to room or have extra people supporting them, like interventionists that come into the classroom or paraprofessionals that come into the classroom to support them. And now we're going to think about how this matters in research. And someone had put in the chat that there's a program that teaches how to make the letter, but then they work on the letter sound later. And so what we're going to share with you today is some research around that and what we found in research. So we have some research that supports letter name and sound instruction as well as letter formation. And so we hope the opening activities just helped you to think about this and how you can be really purposeful, like Sharnita was saying, like really thinking that through. We do know it is best to teach letter names and sounds together. That's what the research has shown. So letter heroes that lessons Jill will talk about are linked to Essential Practices, but also a specific set of research done by Jones, Clark, and Reitzel, in which they created a protocol called Enhanced Alphabet Knowledge. We tend to call that EAK, E-A-K. This protocol is 10 to 12 minutes. You have explicit instruction to assist with writing fluency. It incorporates phonological skills and phonics. It uses multiple senses, and it provides authentic application. And it really meets the bullets of pre-K essential instructional practice and K3 essential instructional practice as well. So this particular one was tested in kindergarten. I'll tell you, this is a go-to article that as a literacy coach, I would hand out to K1 teachers to support them having something to do for kids that were struggling learning the letter names and sounds. So the link to this full article is in the learner guide for you. And if you think about sharing this out, you can, some people don't love to read research articles, as some of us in the room might like to. You could have them focus on page 3, which outlines the protocol, and page 5 that talks about different cycles you could choose as you're teaching a protocol. Because what we know is that there's not a necessary order to use to teach letters of the alphabet. They can be taught in any order, but different cycles are offered for you. So all things that the only thing that children are going to need to participate in these lessons, Jill's going to talk more with that, but they need very little, just something with print on it, a book, junk mail, magazine. And as you'll see when Jill walks us through this, there are ways to engage student in the classroom or remotely. So we're going to hear from her. And again, feel free to follow along on page 3 of this article from the Learner Guide as Jill's explaining. So Jill, I'm going to turn things over to you.
Great. Thank you, Annie and Sharnita, for framing the Letter Heroes segment that I'm going to talk about. So I'll take just a minute to introduce myself and tell you a little bit more about myself. I am a kindergarten teacher with Read, Write, Roar, but also I am currently a district K-6 literacy consultant in Utica schools. I've been in education for 27 years. Previously, before my current position, I was actually a media center teacher, kind of going way back to the beginning of those 27 years. And where my heart will always be, I spent 18 years as a second grade teacher. When I stepped away from the classroom, I don't like to say leave because my heart's always there. I stepped away from the classroom to be a literacy coach for 2 years, which led me to this position. I'm heavily involved in the Michigan Reading Association. I'm currently the immediate past president. And then I also work at the county level and contract out with the Macomb Intermediate School District to facilitate professional learning in early literacy. So today I'm going to talk about one of our segment lessons called Letter Heroes. And this is one of my favorite segments to teach on Read, Write, Roar because of the importance of explicit instruction around letters and letter sound relations, which is critical for developing strong foundational skills in reading and writing. And this has been a really great experience as a kindergarten teacher. I spent many years in second grade, but it's been a great experience because I, even in second grade, did not have this protocol that I'm going to share with you today, that explicit routine in teaching letters, letter formations, and sounds. And this protocol has really enhanced my own instructions as I have worked with students in the coaching role, and I have seen a great impact on the growth of those students and their acquisition of letter ID, sound, and formation. So let's take a look at that Letter Hero, what that Letter Heroes lesson looks like. The protocol that Annie was talking about, we refer to it as EAK, Enhanced Alphabet Knowledge. It really provides a framework for teachers, and it helps to provide direct instruction, which is done through repeated exposure. Letter Heroes, again, just to revisit those essentials, it supports Essential Practice 4, which focuses on teachers promoting phonological awareness development, specifically phonemic awareness development through explicit instruction. And it also aligns with Essential Practice 5, that explicit instruction in letter sound relationships. Early in children's development, this instruction focuses on letter names, the sounds associated with the letters, and how letters are shaped and formed. And just to revisit those 2 bullets, instruction and letter sound relationship is verbally precise and involving multiple channels, such as oral and visual, or visual and tactile. And bullet 3, it's taught systematically in relation to students' needs and aligned with the expectations of the Michigan K-3 standards for English language arts. Also, I mentioned that Letter Heroes is aligned with Essential Practice number 6, which is that research aligned writing instructions, specifically bullet 5 in letter formations. So this lesson is broken down into several parts, which are the components of that EAK protocol. It begins with direct instruction of the letter name, both uppercase and lowercase. Then it moves into the letter sound, practicing the sound and how to produce the sound. So if you currently do not have a resource in your building or maybe in your district that guides you on how to teach that placement and the correct production of those sounds, this might be a good area where you could tap into your speech and language teacher or your literacy coach. Next in the lesson, we identify objects that begin with that sound. In the video, you'll see I use a few props to do this. Then we search for the letter in authentic text. So students can see that the letters and the sounds are put together to make words, and they have an opportunity to search for them and make that connection. Then we end with direct instruction on how to write both the uppercase and lowercase letters with that verbal pathway for the letter. And again, the purpose of this lesson is to provide that direct instruction around letter sound relationships. And also students are given multiple opportunities to participate, to engage with both letter name and sound, and responding along with multisensory aspect. So the lesson that you'll see was obviously done for television for a virtual setting, but you can easily adapt the lesson structure. It can be presented whole group in a large group with cueing students to give choral responses all together. It could be easily added to your classroom daily schedule with just about 10 minutes a day. Another consideration is small group instruction, where students could be given an additional opportunity to review the letter of the day, such as a reteach. And as a teacher, you'd be able to give specific feedback and error correction for the students. And it would be a prime opportunity also to gather formative assessment data, thinking back to that data piece, which is Essential 9 that I mentioned earlier. So let's consider what materials you might need for a Letter Heroes lesson. And the materials really are simple and can include letter cards, which you have a link to in your learner guide, which we have on our website, or you can write them. Chart paper, whiteboard, something that you would want to write their sentence on and instruct on the letter formation, and some teacher notes. So I did this, I know Annie did this as well. On the back of those letter cards, you would find little sticky notes for myself with some of the language for the protocol, maybe your letter formation pathway. I think I saw in the chat, someone said they have it tucked away somewhere, but not memorized. That's okay. Make yourself a little sticky note, and how you're instructing your students how to produce the sound. So those could be notes on the back of your cards or somewhere. They don't even have to be on the back because they can be right in front of you because you're with a live audience of students. And lastly, it would be a good idea to maybe brainstorm a few words that you'll provide as examples of objects that begin with that sound. And in the video, you could also include, like you'll see in the video, you could also include props of those objects. So let's take a look at what this protocol looks like in a Letter Heroes segment. And this specific lesson is designed for kindergarten, but it could be adapted to correspond with other letter sound combinations, such as digraphs, diphthongs at other early grades or even upper grades. So in the chat, we're going to drop a reflection sheet that you can kind of record your thoughts as you watch the video. And when you click on the link, it'll ask you to make a copy. So we each have our own recording sheet. So you can use this to record your thoughts, any new learning you notice, maybe some of the practices that are new to you, ideas, things you might want to try, and then any questions you might have. And then after the video, we'll spend about 5 minutes in a breakout room and you can share some of your thoughts and have an opportunity to discuss. Hello, I'm Mrs. Erforth. Today, you are all going to be letter heroes. You'll be learning the name, the sound, and how to write the letter K. This is the letter K. This is the uppercase letter K. This is the lowercase letter K. Let's practice naming the letter K. When I point to the letter, you say the letter. What letter is this? K. And this? K. The letter K represents the sound K, like in koala, like in kitten, and key, and kite, and kid. To make the sound K, I put my tongue at the top of my mouth towards the back, and I push the air through my mouth when I let go of my tongue and release my tongue, like this. K, K. You try it. K, K. Great job. Now let's practice saying the sound K. When I point to the letter, you say the sound. Ready? What sound? K. And what sound is that? K. Let's see if we can find the letter K in our sentence. Let's get out our magnifying glass and look closer at our sentence. The king has a pet kitten named Kitty. Let's take a close look. Do we see the letter K? No, that's our high frequency word. King. Yes, you see the letter K. Let's circle it. Let's keep reading. Do you see the letter K again in the sentence? Has a pet. The next word, kitten. There it is, the letter K. Let's circle it. Did you see another letter K in our sentence in any of the words? Named Kitty. The letter K. Let's circle it. Did you notice that's an uppercase K for Kitty? Because that's the kitten's name. And we put an uppercase or capital letter at the beginning of names. We have 3 words in our sentence that have the letter K. King, kitten, and kitty. Great job, letter heroes. Now let's practice writing the letter K. Let's practice writing the uppercase letter K first. Watch me on the lines. Begin at the top line, pull down, back up to the top line, slant in, slant out. Let's trace it. Get your tracing finger ready and trace it with me. Ready? Start at the top line, pull down, back up to the top line, slant in, slant out. Great. Now, let's get our pencil and let's write it together. All right, let's write it together. Ready? Start at the top line of your paper. Pull down, back up to the top, slant in, slant out. Let's practice writing another one together. Now let's practice writing the lowercase letter K. Watch me write the lowercase letter K. Start at the top line, pull down, middle line, slant in, then slant out. Let's trace it with our finger. Get your finger ready, and let's trace the lowercase letter K. Here we go. Start at the top line, pull down, middle line, slant in, slant out. Great. I think we're ready to write it now. Grab your pencil and let's practice writing the letter K. Start at the top line of your paper, pull down, middle line, slant in, you got it, slant out. Okay, and we love the magic of our video producers, how they can cut in and magnify some of that. So hopefully you wrote down a few things that you noticed. We're going to go ahead and put you into breakout rooms. You'll have about 5 minutes to talk and share. You might want to focus just on one of these questions that we have here provided for you so that you have enough time for each person to share. Give you a minute to look at those questions. And we'll send a reminder with 1 minute as the breakout will close, so you can stay in your room until it closes. You can continue to share and complete your thoughts. And take note what group you're in, just in case, your group number, just in case if you lose connection and you need to rejoin, we can put you back in that breakout room. Okay, so we will send you off. We'll see you back in about 5 minutes. All right, I think we have everyone back. Welcome back. Would anyone like to share a takeaway that they talked about in their breakout, or maybe a way you see this lesson being used in your setting? You can just unmute if you'd like and share. We can put something in the chat as well.
We just started using mirrors this year to show students what what it should look like when they're forming, saying the different sounds. And we found that very helpful. I know there's some others in my group that said they are using them also and found good results too. So.
Right, engaging for the students as well. Thank you for sharing that. Making sure all grades are using the same language. Great. And you mentioned that earlier for that consistency.
I have a question / comment. So I think that these videos would be really helpful to like differentiate and stick into Google Classroom for kids who still need to practice certain letter formations. However, my problem is that they're 26 minutes long. And so like just that snippet that you showed would be super helpful to just throw in their Google Classroom. They get 5 minutes of that practice and then they move on. So I'm curious to hear if you have any ideas of how we can utilize it, but not for the full 26 minutes and for it to be independent for a first grader to start and stop on their own.
The letter heroes, if I'm not mistaken, are usually always at the beginning of those segments. And Annie, you can jump in too, but I'm thinking if they are at the beginning, that they could play them. If you tell the students, might take a little bit modeling and practicing with them, but after that letter heroes and they're practicing that letter, then they can stop the video there. That's about 8 minutes, I think, in total, just that from the beginning, the letter heroes segment.
Thanks, Jill. And Emma, that's a great question. I tried to chat respond to you, but you were in a breakout, so it wouldn't let me. But I think that's a great question. And I'm going to look into some more information on that. Also, like when you share it, if you can do it at a start time and a stop time. So if that's helpful. So I'm going to look into that for you. If you don't mind sending me an email. So it's aspear@GoMesa. I'll put it in the chat. Anyone who has any other questions, we will give our contact information at the end, but that's a great question. And we'll work with the team to figure out how we can do that, because we're actually working to be able to give you a scope and sequence of all the lessons. We want this to be useful for you, even for parents. Like I think about IRIPs, right? If you can say to parents, here's some episodes, if so, and Jill's going to tell you a little bit more about looking them up. So I'll let her do that on the next slide, because I know we still have to talk about mystery words today too, but she can share with you how you can look for certain lesson types and even share those links with families too.
So yes, Annie, thank you. And your learner guide, you have a link, which you can also go to the website, our Michigan Learning Channel, and search Read, Write, Roar, but you have a link directly to more kindergarten lessons, but you can also search for lessons by grade level. And as Annie mentioned, they're continually working on different ways that you can search. And another nice feature of the Read, Write, Roar lessons are those activity guides. So you'll see an activity guide as well for each of the lessons. And then just to reiterate, in your learner guide, you do have a link to that EEC lesson template. You have a research article, but you also have what's called a teacher lesson guide. And that's the template you see on the slide on the right-hand side. The very left-hand side of the slide, Annie has a wonderful presentation that breaks it down even further step-by-step for you. And then just a reminder, you have a link to those letter cards if you want to use those as well. So I'll turn it over to Annie for high frequency words.
Thanks, Jill, for the excellent way of presenting everything. So I'm going to try and do an abridged version so we can make sure you get to watch the video today. But that little quote on there, only 4% of words are not decodable. That's just an important thing for you to know, because we're often told to tell kids words are tricky. Oh, you can't figure this out. But really, only 4% of words, like the word of, are non-decodable. That like the sounds that you say and you hear don't match the letters, right? So we want to let you know that there's things you can do. We want to leverage the patterns kids do know. So as we think about high frequency words, I've been in lots of roles as a classroom teacher in first grade. I've taught third grade, been a Title I interventionist. I've been a literacy coach, clinic coordinator. Now I work for MAISA, but no matter where I'm working, high frequency words always come up. It just seems to be something we all have to learn about. And so if we can know the best ways to teach them, that's what we need to know. So what we need to know is we don't need kids to just memorize them. Like that is not a helpful way to help kids learn high frequency words. we actually don't want to spend a lot of time on high frequency words. We want to spend like about 3 minutes on high frequency words. At the most, 5 minutes a day should be dedicated to our instruction on this. And then we want to really make sure that kids are exposed to high frequency words that match what they're actually learning in school. So if we can map them onto things that they already know and they're already doing, that'll help them make those connections to things that they've already learned. So putting them within patterns. And you'll notice Dr. Rhonda Provost is working with someone in our on our team here. We're sending out some learner guides. They'll be ready somewhat soon. And you'll notice in these that when we teach certain patterns, like for instance, when you see the high frequency word lessons that Sharnita and I do, those are matched to the patterns we were teaching in other lessons. And so we didn't just choose any high frequency words. We taught ones that we've been working on, digraphs, for instance, or blends, for instance. So what I can tell you is that now, after teaching for, I've been teaching for over 23 years in one way or another, and I know that flashcards don't work, and I would like to go back and apologize to a lot of children that are now in their late 20s who did that. But we do want to share a few resources with you. Besides watching the video, there are a few things we want you to have. The first thing is you're going to get a link to a video with Dr. Marcia Invernizzi, who you might know from Words Their Way. She talks about when to teach sight words and about concept of print. She really talks through some excellent strategies. It's about a 10-minute video. I really highly recommend that you watch it. It's going to be connected to what we talk about today, as well as a blog article by Dr. Nell Duke and by Dr. Heidi Mesmer. Excellent, excellent article, extremely practical. And when you read what we say in the essential documents and in the modules, it all aligns. So those two are for you to have for your use. And then I wanted to just start to talk to you about what this looks like in practice for us. Excuse me. Oh, thank you, Danielle, who tells me I'm not alone having to apologize to people. I appreciate that. But we always had like cheat sheets. So I, as a teacher, don't pretend to tell kids I know everything. So you'll see this is like, I had my own Post-it notes that I would have out when I was getting ready to teach the words. So I was prepared for them. Didn't take me very long, but it made me think through the words. If we don't think through it ahead of a time, we can actually kind of get ourselves a little bit like turned around and then maybe give kids the wrong information. So it's a really quick prep. They're aligned again to grade level and phonics features that we're studying when we taught these. Had a whiteboard and a marker. You'll see Sharnita had for hers, she's going to have like a word card, but she has a whiteboard as well. And so there's really not much you need to teach these lessons. But you can see how try is an example. We're going to see me teach that in this next lesson. And just because we're running low on time, we're going to be having you put some comments in the chat rather than getting into breakout rooms because we have to show this to you right now. This is recorded too, so we apologize. We have great questions and some great interactions, so we're running a little bit behind. If you need to pop off before or right at 5 o'clock, you'll be able to have access to the recording to watch parts, and we'll make sure that the sketch form gets put in for you to be able to see to get to that too. So really want to have you know that in these lessons, it's important for children to segment the sounds through phoneme segmentation and then map those sounds onto letters. So you'll see us do that in these lessons. And we invite children to write the word with us. You'll see us do that. And we want children to say the words. So you'll see us asking the children to say the words with us. Because we know when we say a word and hear its phonological representation, that's actually really important and helps you remember the word. So we often do something where the kids are connecting the word. You saw Jill with Letter Heroes. They read in a sentence. We're looking for K's, like we sometimes do a poetry hunt or something like that, where we're looking for the words when we've read a poem connected to the content we're teaching. But we always try and make something applicable for children, or at least invite them to be connecting it to their reading and writing that they're doing. So again, we'll put a reflection form is in the chat for you, so you can write your reflections as we view this video. And we will get started and show the video and look forward to seeing what you think about. You'll notice what Sharnita and I do is not maybe exactly the same, but we do all the same things in this with our kind of explicit instruction. So happy watching. Hello there, learners. It's Mrs. Spear again. I'm really excited because today we are going to be word builders. We are going to be learning about high frequency words. High frequency words are words that you're going to see a lot when you're reading, and you're going to be able to use them when you're writing. So you need to know how to be able to recognize them in reading and know how to spell them when you're writing. Today, we are going to learn 2 new words. The first word we're going to learn is the word try. Can you say try? Great. I feel proud when I try my best. Here's how the word try works. Try has 3 sounds. T, r, I, try. Try also has 3 letters. So here are the letters that go with those sounds. The first sound in try, t, is spelled with letter T. I'm going to do a straight line down and a small straight line across. The second sound in try is r, with letter R. And the third sound is I, which is spelled with the letter Y. T-R-Y spells try. There are 5 letters though. For me, T-R-Y, try. Wonderful job. I'm going to ask you to spell it with me now. You can either skywrite it in the air or write it on a piece of scrap paper. Here we go. Let's write try. T-R-Y, try. Well done, learners. The next word that you want to know, because it's a high frequency word, is the word great. When we have a clear sky, it's a great night to be able to go and look at the stars. Great. Here we go. There are 4 sounds. G, r, a, t. Great. There are 5 letters though. So here's how great works. The G is with letter, you got it, letter G. The R is with letter R. The A sound in great is actually spelled with 2 letters, E and A. It's not what you would expect. And the last sound we hear in great is letter T. Did you help me with that where you are? Thanks. G-R-E-A-T spells great. Now you spell it with me, skywriting or on your scrap paper. Here we go. Great. G-R-E-A-T. Great.
Hello learners, it's Miss Rogers to talk about high frequency words. We learn these words because they're going to show up a lot when we are reading and writing. If we can understand how these words work and learn how to spell them, it will help us when we read and write them. So here we go. My first word today is the word all. I ate all of the ice cream. All, all, all. 2 sounds. Now let me hear you say all. Now let's say the sounds. All, all. Good job. Now, if I look at my word, it has 3 letters. The A says the ah sound. L says the l sound. So these 2 letters make 1 sound. When I put them together, it's all, all. A-L-L spells all. So I'm going to put this on my board and I want you to help me to write them. You can skywrite in the air, you can write on a sheet of paper or whatever you have at home. So let's write the word all. All, all. My second word that I have for you is the word from. I received a letter from my friends. From. 4 sounds. Let me hear you say from. Now let's say the sounds. From. Good job. Now let's look at the word from. From has 1, 2, 3, 4 letters. The F says f, the R says r, the O in this word says and the M says mm. So all of these letters put together sound like this. From. From. Let me hear you say from.
Good job. So now we're going to try to write this word. Also, remember, you can write up in the sky with your finger or on paper or anything you have at home. So let's write the word from. From. So our two words today that we learned are all and from. Now practice writing those words, because once we practice, we can easily identify the words when we read and write them.
So you notice that Sharnita and I did the same things, but we're two different people and we have two different styles. So it came across maybe a little bit differently, but we did the same types of things of that explicit instruction and breaking down with that phoneme segmentation, mapping it onto the letters. We'd love to hear other things you want to say in the chat. And as you're thinking about that, I just want to give you an update. We had a statewide coaches meeting last week and had sent Dr. Nell Duke some questions. And one of them was, that comes up a lot. I said, I would love to hear your thoughts, Nell, about why we shouldn't teach high frequency words in preschool and pre-kindergarten, why we should only teach a few in kindergarten, and why we would focus more in first grade. And so she gave us some really great answers. And what I've done is map them on to this slide for you, and you'll have copies of this slide deck so you can share them with others. But really, kids do need to have that initial phoneme segmentation in place to secure their high frequency words. And as she told us, with expectations for children, we don't really expect this until 60 months of age. So you wouldn't expect preschoolers, right, to be having that in place then. Kids really need to have a secure concept of word. And if you view that video we shared with Dr. Invernizzi, excellent way that she explains what concept of word is and what children have to have in place for that. So I highly recommend, again, that you would watch the video that's linked in the sheet from her. Really high frequency words aren't very high utility or interesting for kindergartners, and they kind of could shake kids' just feelings about how they have faith in our system of English when we're teaching them about this system of learning and then giving them these words that don't really follow a lot of the other things we're telling them about letters and sounds. So we know names are different, right? Because a lot of names are going to not necessarily follow along with everything we know about letter names and sounds. And it's okay to just acknowledge that, like why a name wouldn't necessarily fit there. So we want you to just have this so you can read through it and know that versus kindergarten, you want to teach a few. We're not saying to go overboard, but teach a few to kids so that it helps them to access predictable text that they're going to read. But we're still really working on that firm understanding of letter names and sounds, which is something, which is why like the enhanced alphabet knowledge protocol gets a lot of time on read, write, or in kindergarten, because we're really trying to give that explicit letter sound instruction. And again, we want to recommend for any grade that you're teaching them, kindergarten or anything, that they're in groups. And you'll have a sheet I'll give you in the learner guide in a minute that you can see that helps you to make that link for kids. But the goal for the end of kindergarten is really that kids can read and write CVC words. And so again, you're teaching high frequency words, but not going overboard. And the same in first grade. Like we really want kids in first grade to have those words they need to do their reading and to be able to learn and use what they know about letters and sounds to help them with their high frequency words. So again, teaching them in predictable patterns will be quite helpful. And you'll have this slide so you can read through all the other pieces at your own leisure. So a couple of things we're going to send you away with today, besides those other links in the chat. When you look at the other pieces that are in the learner guide, if we look at our next slide here, those high frequency words, this is a sheet that I had just put together to help kids make that connection. Like if I know one, it helps me spell none. So if I can spell we, then I can spell be, then I can spell she, then I can spell he, helping kids learn those patterns and teaching them in those groups. And then we put together a protocol for you to have that's really similar to if you use Dr. Walpole's work for teaching high frequency words in her differentiated reading instruction, or if your school uses bookworms, you'll notice that. And that was basically how I was taught to teach them. So I was taught a good strategy to teach them, but I also did flashcards, which was the bad part of it. So anyway, we hope that will be useful for you in your practice. And again, I'm going to show you that we are also have a spot where you can learn about more high frequency word lessons. And so there's a link in the chat, in the learner guide for that for you. But I am going to add one thing into the chat, or is that we have a read, write, word book list, and we don't have that on the learner guide. but we did want you to know there are some decodable texts linked on that are from Dr. Julia Lindsay's Beyond Decodables that could support you. And if you see the link to her website, you'll see all other kinds of decodables on that. So before we do some wrap up here, we do want to thank Mimic, and we're going to play that video for you now. Again, thank you for staying if you have stayed on for this time. Here we go.
Hello, educators. I'm Pam Harlan, Director of the Mimic Foundation, with an important tip. The Mimic Foundation is here to support you, providing fun as well as needed resources for your classroom. So here's my tip. Join the Mimic Foundation Club now at mimicfoundation.org. Membership is free. Now, once you join, you can easily apply for our grant opportunities every month with a simple click to win things like Chromebooks and document cameras, programmable robots, musical instruments like boom whackers and kalimbas, classroom furniture, books, basic school supplies, and so much more. Since 2018, the Mimic Foundation have given out millions and millions of dollars in grants to teachers like you in schools like yours. So take a minute to join more than 99,000 of your fellow educators at mimicfoundation.org. All of us at Mimic wish you a safe, healthy, and productive school year, and we look forward to supporting you and your students. Thank you so much. Thank you for all you do.
So thanks to Mimic, and we will put the sketch form in the chat right there. There it is. Thank you, Michigan Learning Channel co-host behind the scenes with me, Kyle. As we're closing out and you're filling that out, a couple of things. We've talked about these modules and we can learn more. So we just want to let you know there are free modules for all the pre-kindergarten 10 essentials and the K-3 essentials that are open. You get sketches for each one. And we do recommend you do these in groups and not in isolation, even if you pair up with a partner and you meet up and talk about them after you've gone through different parts. It just really helps with the synthesis of these, but those are available for you. So there's a link so you can find those. And then we want to make sure that you know how to stay in touch with us. So here's how to get in touch with Jill and with me. And we apologize that Sharnita, that you are not on here, but we will have to make sure we get your information to people because we weren't sure if Sharnita was going to be able to make it, but she is quite important as the engagement specialist at Michigan Learning Channel. So we need to get you her information, but please stay in touch with us. And we also encourage you to check out these other ways that you can find us for either Read, Write, Roar or with Mesa. And again, think about how maybe these lessons would support you as you're planning your IRIPs for students that are struggling, or any students really. They might enjoy the Michigan Learning Channel videos. And we hope this session was great. We apologize that we're late. This is the first time we've ever gone this over. So thanks for hanging in there with us. And our next session for Let's Write is coming up on November 8th. I'll be thrilled to be joined by Shannon Fuller. And we'll both be talking about writing and showing some videos of writing and sharing some scope and sequence work. So thanks for being here. We look forward to seeing you soon and hope that this has been helpful for you. All that information again is in the chat for you, and really appreciate you being here. So on behalf of Mesa and the Michigan Learning Channel, keep reading, writing, and roaring. And we hope to see you back here for more because there's lots more in store where this came from. So have a great night, and thanks for all you're doing for children where you are.